Okay, this is our lesson 4. And we will be discussing input function. So what it does, it simply takes something from the user, a value. So this is the user, and this is the keyboard. So he or she presses on any button, and then the computer takes a value. So we call this one an input from the user. Now, how to use input function in Python? So first you need a variable, let's say x, and then assignment operator, input. So if you run the code, and this is your screen, so it's waiting for the user input. Let's say you enter 5, and that's all. This is the output. You enter 5, and you have 5 on the screen. But it doesn't do anything because we don't use the value of x anywhere in the code. Now let's add print function and then x. So let's run it again. So it's waiting for an input, 5, and then print x, which is, again, 5. So as you can see, we have parentheses next to input function. Is it possible to write something inside? Yes. Let's say num equals input, and then enter a value, and we print the value of num. So if this is your screen, so you enter 5 to 5, and then print the value of num, which is 5 to 5. But there is something important that you have to know. So what if you check the data type of this variable? So this is our function, input function. It returns a string, not float, not integer. So if you check the data type of num, it is str, which is string. So basically this is not a numerical value, this is string. Now how to make it a numerical value? So it's so simple. Num equals, you just write int. So this int is a function, the int function. And then parentheses, you write your input function inside int function, enter a number. So the data type here is str. So whatever you have inside, single quotes or double quotes, and then you have this int function. It converts str to an integer. Just to clarify this part, let's say the number is 5. Suppose we don't have any int function. And then you print. It's something like 5 inside quotes. But if you run, you don't see those codes. because this is string. When you use int function, you'll get this 5, which is an integer. Now let's have some examples using int function. Let's say we have int 5. Do we have any double quotes or single quotes around 5? No. So you'll get 5. Int 2.0. You'll get 2. So be careful, this is not integer, this is floating point number. You have int string 5. So this 5 is a string. So you convert string to integer, you'll get 5. Now something interesting. So here we have int and then a numerical value, either float or int. It doesn't matter, and then you'll get 2. Now let's say we have 2.5 inside quotes. So what will happen? Okay, 2. No. This is false. You will get an error, because it cannot convert this part. This is like string 2.5, and we have this decimal point, which is a character. So everything inside double quotes, string. So it cannot convert 2.5, which is within quotes, to an integer. But if you say int 2.5, you'll get 2, which is the whole part of 2.5. So again, if you have, for example, 3.14 inside double quotes, you can't get the whole part, and you will get an error. Even if you use input function, let's say x equals int, and then input function, so the user enters 3.14, which will be inside quotes because by default it returns a string, and you'll get int 3.14 inside double quotes. So what will happen? Again, you will get an error. So how to fix this problem? Because we always need to work with both integers and floating point numbers. So how to overcome the problem? We can use float function. So it converts anything to a floating point number. Now let's say x equals float, and then input. So this time the user enters 3.14 inside quotes because of input function, and then we will get something like this: 3.14 as string inside float function. So what will happen? You will get 3.14. So here we can convert 3.14 as a string to a floating point number. Now let's have some examples. We have float 2. So this 2 is an integer, right? We don't have any decimal point. You'll get 2.0. So as you know, we have decimal point. So this is a floating point number. Now let's say we have float 2.0. You'll get again 2.0 without any change. Float, let's say 2.22. You'll get 2.22 as a numerical value, not string anymore. Let's say you have float 0.5. So this is basically 0.5. But we can omit 0 and then say 0.5 without 0. So you'll get 0.5 as a numerical value. But it doesn't work with just dots inside codes. If you try this one, you will get an error. So be careful about this. Now let's mix all of them together. We have int, float, input, enter a number. So be careful about the number of parentheses. So now this is our screen. So it's waiting for a number, 5.152. So it becomes, let me explain here. Now we have 5.152 as a string, and then we have float function. So you will get 5.152 as a numerical value. Now this is the value here. We have int function, write it here, 5.152. Now you will get number 5, which is the whole part of this floating point number. So that was all for this lesson. So next lesson, we code. Yes. So it will be a practical session. As usual, take care and bye-bye.